Oh, hey, didn't see you there. Well, welcome to the show. I'm your host, and today we're going to be discussing a subject that seems to be on everyone's minds, and that is, of course, the mental health of Mr. Norman Finkelstein. Norman Finkelstein needs to see a better psychiatrist. He is a perfect example of the innocent looking kind of academic fraud that's out there today. Among other things, his fixation on the Israeli genocide, which, of course, are his words and not mine. Um, his fixation on this makes it very challenging for his readers and his viewers to really see the forest through the trees. Whether or not it is his intention, Mr. Finkelstein has employed the debate tactic of provoking slumber, as someone named Rabbi Shmuley Bateach recently said, in his debate opponent, if you could even call these debates. But Finkelstein accomplishes this by speaking very slowly in that raspy voice, which he has stated publicly he does because he likes to emphasize value with every word. Yet, instead of actually engaging in a real discussion, what Finkelstein ends up doing is just repeating what, for instance, an Israeli minister said about the people of Gaza about 5 months ago. Finkelstein claims that several ministers, were calling all of the people of Gaza Amalek, which is to invoke a biblical term referring to the people that Jews defeated centuries ago, the Amalekites. Now, in Norm's view, this comment is enough evidence to support the accusation that Israelis are in fact committing a genocide in Gaza today. Wow, do we have a lot to unpack here. But don't worry, I'll indulge only 2 to 3 more paragraphs. Now that Israelis said things like Amalek or whatever about the Gazans should come as no surprise to anyone, unless, of course, you don't understand Israeli society. But Norm understands Israeli society. Now, behind closed doors, Israeli ministers are likely saying much more foul and insulting things about the Palestinians. Yes, Mr. Finkelstein, you just so happened to catch these men following the attack that Hamas committed on October 7th. But there is, of course, much more to unpack, and I will indulge Norm for just a moment. So, Prime Minister Netanyahu has opposed a two-state solution since the 90s, and this opposition to a Palestinian sovereign state is at the very least implied in the Likud charter. That's nothing new. But we can't just jump into a time machine and hope to gain a better understanding of the situation today. There are plenty of history books written by Norman Finkelstein to fulfill that exact purpose. Now, in my view, what really matters is whether the current state of politics in the region will either weaken or strengthen the possibility of peace and a sovereign Palestinian state. Now, if this is something Norm is truly advocating for, well, then he certainly has an odd way of showing it. To be sure, these goals of peace and Palestinian statehood remain unlikely so long as Prime Minister Netanyahu remains Prime Minister. However, they remain impossible so long as Hamas has any role whatsoever in governing the Palestinians, whether we're talking about Gaza or the West Bank. Now, it is also very difficult to actually govern when you are hiding, as Yahya Sinwar is, underground and far from the people that you were elected to supposedly look after. So in 2006, Yahya Sinwar was diagnosed with cancer, and he was treated in an Israeli hospital. You know, one of those hospitals that is that apartheid kind of hospital where Arabs and Jews actually work together. But about a decade later, Sinwar became the Hamas political bureau chief, and he gained a lot of credibility at this point amongst other Hamas leaders such as Ismail Haniyeh. Now, Today, Sinwar is largely credited with having planned the October 7th massacre. He and his family are still on the run underground, and at this point, likely somewhere in Egypt. But due to Sinwar's current nomadic status, he has lost a lot of his leadership credibility. To clarify, yes, this man benefited immensely from an Israeli institution about 18 years ago, and then spent years planning to attack that exact same nation which provided those services to him. Shall we discuss the very similar script from the life of former Hamas leader Khaled Mashal? As tempting as it is, we will stay in the present moment. Now, moving on to the Palestinian Authority's funding of Hamas terrorists. And I promise this will be the final paragraph. So, Hamas militants will earn thousands of dollars for killing Israelis. Palestinian Authority leader Mahmoud Abbas has a quote-unquote martyr program, which is more commonly known to the outside world as a pay-to-slay kind of program. Simply put, Abbas's government is paying Palestinians for each Israeli that they kill. Abbas not only pays these martyrs, he also provides money to them if and when, because it's only a matter of time, most likely, they get locked up in an Israeli prison. So Abbas is helping keep these people afloat, essentially. And so he's participating in a terrorist campaign that's not so different from the Hamas terrorists themselves. So then you've got these impoverished militants, desperate for cash, and they'll later get married, probably have children, and those children will also be raised to do exactly what they've done, which is to want to hate and kill Israelis, specifically Jews. And this arrangement just ensures that the cycle of violence continues. So Mr. Finkelstein has betrayed both the academic and the YouTube community by not discussing such a despicable truth. Furthermore, Finkelstein is either out of touch or intentionally leaves out crucial and relevant facts. It's not that he is stating an outright falsehood, although in some cases he is, but it's more the fact that he's not offering his viewers a full picture of the situation in Palestine. And if you're interested in hearing more, let me know.